This video is going to be a draft prediction for the Houston Texans. I think this franchise has a unique opportunity beginning Thursday night in the first round of the NFL draft. I think that the ownership and front office have just hit home runs with the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, the acquisition of all of the draft picks through the Deshaun Watson trade, the entire free agent acquisitions that they've had this year leading up to the 2023 NFL draft. Re-signed a center, signed a second one in Michael Dieter, traded for Shaq Mason, signed Dalton Schultz and running back Devin Singletary, to supplement the offense even before the draft. Getting smart veteran signings on offense. Defensively, they improved themselves, in my opinion. Denzel Perryman, Jimmy Ward, serviceable and solid defensive tackles. Why do I mention all of the free agent moves to acquire veterans in a draft preview video? I think it's part and parcel of the Texans' strategy, which is comprehensive. I think they're in an amazing situation. Beginning Thursday night with pick number 2, and in my opinion, they actually control the draft. I know that the Carolina Panthers have even gone out there and said we traded for pick number 1 so that we were in control of the draft. I think they gave up a ton of draft capital and a pretty good football player in DJ Moore to get pick number 1. And in my opinion, the Texans actually control the draft. They have pick 2, pick 12, and then what I consider to be honest with you, the golden nugget, which is pick 33. Not a first-round pick in terms of, the number of years, so you don't get that 5th year, but you have pick 33, you're going to get the talent level of a first-round pick in this draft, if you ask me, just numerically, because the Dolphins don't get a first-round pick. You do. And then depth-wise, in my opinion, corner, edge, among other positions, just have a ton of depth, a ton of guys who can come in and produce immediately. I think that all of those free agent moves that the Texans made have given them the opportunity here with the draft to skip levels in the progression of how NFL teams improve. And here's what I mean. I think they can leapfrog 12 to 15 teams at minimum next year in terms of record because of how they're set up to win this draft. The Carolina Panthers get the first pick, so they're going to take Bryce Young. And we're going to assume that here in this video because I've got 3 scenarios for you that kind of offshoot from that first pick being Bryce Young. But in my opinion, having picks 2, 12, and 33, look, other teams are set up well, also. The Detroit Lions pick 6 and 18. The Philadelphia Eagles, who, damn near just won a Super Bowl, they've got an additional first-round pick this year. I think the Texans have a unique situation now with not just the number of draft picks they have, but where they're located. 2, 12, 33, and then 65 and 73, their pair of third-round picks. I think those are going to act like duct tape, where they can just fix any situation that they didn't address with 2, 12, and 33. What are the possible outcomes for 2 and 12? That's generally going to be the focus of this video. It's going to be my best prediction or suggestion based on what I think of the players in the draft that are most likely to be picked by the Texans. If you listen to, the most popular talent evaluators, and if you follow some of the mock draft, I like to use NFL mock draft database, and it kind of compiles a lot of people's mock drafts and in a succinct way, so you can go look at who's the 12 most likely players at pick 65 for the Texans based on all these mock drafts, based on all these evaluators. I think what they've done in free agency gives them the best opportunity to improve the fastest in this draft, and I mean that exponentially more powerful opportunity for them than the Carolina Panthers, who really just get one shot at it, and they've got to be right. All right, so the first scenario that we're going to go over is one that I'm kind of ambivalent about, and that's because of how talented Will Anderson is and the body of work that he put out there. And this scenario is reflective of the reports that the Texans, and I guess a lot of the NFL, are now hesitant to pick C.J. Stroud, a guy who hasn't played a football game in, I guess, 5 months now or 4 months. So for whatever reason, even though Stroud is there at 2, the Texans take Will Anderson. And look, he's a fantastic football player. Will Anderson's a top 5 talent in this draft. I'm a huge fan of his, but to put my coach's hat on for a moment, at the college level, he's a 3-4 outside linebacker. Did he play in a 4-eye sometimes? Yes, but that was Alabama trying to get more speed on the field. That was them possibly, having guys that they recruited and told, you're going to play, minimum 200, 250 snaps this year. So that was them trying to keep Will Anderson on the field and get another edge, guy on the field. In my opinion, they were trying to keep around who's a little bit younger. And at the NFL level, Will Anderson's a 3-4 outside linebacker. 243, 245 pounds, somewhere around in there. Does that mean that he's not going to be able to play 5 technique or 9 technique in a nickel 4-2-5? No. There's so much 11 personnel. If you're a 3-4 OLB, you have to be able to play on the edge. You are an edge defender as a 3-4 outside linebacker. The difference is you may not have a 4-eye inside, lined up inside of you to protect you as much. You may have a 1 technique and be in a 5. That's a very different situation. In my opinion, if D'Amico Ryans is going to run a similar defense to what he did with the 49ers, it makes more of a fit to go with a traditional 5 technique D end. And when I say that, I mean somebody who plays in a 3-point stance and is in the 6'4", to 265, 275 pound range, like a Nick Bosa or somebody like that. Not that there's 10 Nick Bosas in this draft or even walking the earth, period. This scenario has the Texans taking Will Anderson at 2 and then putting themselves in a precarious position, if you ask me. After pick number 2, they only have the only quarterbacks on their roster, to my knowledge, is Davis Mills, Case Keenum, and E.J. Perry. How do they get the young franchise quarterback you would assume they're looking for? Do they wait for the 2024 draft? They have the opportunity to win now. Why wait? Why delay that? In my opinion, the only way to make it happen, even though Anthony Richardson's on the left-hand side of the screen here, is to use pick 33, which I don't think they want to get rid of, to move up to like pick 6. For the Lions, so you get in front of the Raiders and you get in front of, I think, the Falcons, who would definitely want to take Anthony Richardson. My point is here, taking Will Anderson at 2 is a great move for most football teams in the NFL. I do not think it is for the Houston Texans in this situation. I don't think it makes sense to go this route, and I really like Anthony Richardson. Does he have inaccuracy issues? Sure. He's a warrior. He looked like a hero playing against Georgia, dodging all those pass rushers and trying to make plays with his feet and with his, with delivering the football. I just think C.J. Stroud is a better football player right now than Anthony Richardson, and I don't see the point in delaying a year to take a quarterback and then taking someone else at pick 12. But, so again, it would be not trading back up to get Anthony Richardson. Nor do I think it makes sense to go with my second scenario, which is the one that angers me the most and the one that it sounds like bettors think is going to happen, which is take Will Levis at number 2. And then you not only are you not taking C.J. Stroud, a more proven, guy by the film by far than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, but you're leaving a guy like Will Anderson out there as well. And if you think about who's drafting after the Texans, well, Will Anderson's probably going to get picked in this scenario, the second one I'm presenting you. Will Anderson's probably going to get picked by the Cardinals, right? And then that means C.J. Stroud is probably going to go to the Colts. I don't think they're going to pass on him. Do you want to have to face him twice a year with the coaching staff that the Colts have there now, the run game that's already present with Jonathan Taylor? Not only is this one a big risk for the front office, I think it is for the coaching staff as well. Passing on a Will Anderson, guy who can get 10, 12 sacks a season, quarterback in C.J. Stroud with far more high-level game film, or Anthony Richardson. In my opinion, for me as an evaluator, based on what I think I see, I would take Richardson before Levis. So my order would be Stroud and then Richardson and then Levis. Again, we're assuming here that Bryce Young's going to go number 1. This option, this scenario, I think puts the front office in the crosshairs. And they've got a good thing going there in Houston. They've hired a young, energetic coach who has a connection to Houston, the franchise, obviously, and he's brought some people along with him that are going to create a winning culture immediately. I think scenario number 1 is the one that would be my middle ground. This one here is the one that's negative 50 for me, even though Christian Gonzalez is a fantastic football player. Just throw a player up there in terms of picture so you could get an idea of the type of player that will be selected. Me personally, the one I'm advocating for, the one that I think, the scenario that I think makes the most sense for this team, which I think is closer to competing in the NFL than a lot of Texans fans even think. This scenario 3 is the one that I think gets them there the soonest or the fastest, which is take C.J. Stroud at number 2. And then at number 12, the options are endless. You don't have to trade up now to get a quarterback. You already have one. Yeah, you didn't draft Will Anderson. You would presume that Will Anderson is going to be picked number 3 by the Cardinals if they don't trade back. Certainly, if you're the Texans, you don't want to have to deal with Will Anderson twice a year if the Colts take him. But the Colts need a quarterback. Don't hand them a game-ready quarterback in C.J. Stroud. That's where I think the situation that the Texans are in terms of controlling the draft, that's why I utilized that description and that analogy in the beginning, is because they can play keep away from the Colts with whoever they don't want him to get. JSN there at 12, a Dallas area kid who went up north and played college ball with C.J. Stroud, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, who I don't think will be there at 12. Those would upgrade the cornerback room, tremendously. But with the depth of this cornerback class, you can get solid players who can start at 65 and 73 at corner to fix that issue. When I say fix that issue, I mean address that issue. Bring in a quality football player. 2 and 12, you don't have to use on corner. I'm going to use an example additionally for receiver and how I think the Texans should craft or build their draft strategy backwards. So meaning from 65 and 73, who can we take? Who could we take at 65, 73 that could come in and contribute immediately? Therefore, we don't have to draft that position at 2, 12, or 33. Here's my example, and I'm actually going to use a player from the 2022 draft, George Pickens. Drafted at selection number 52 by the Steelers in 2022. Let's say he was in this year's draft, and the Texans didn't go wide receiver at 12 or 33. They're clearly not going receiver at number 2. They could use picks 65 and 73 to get a guy like George Pickens. Now, he went 13 picks sooner in 2022 at selection 52. You've got a shit ton of draft capital for 2024. I think the Texans have 9 picks in 2024. I think they've got 11 this year. Maybe it's 10. They could move up easily to get a guy like Pickens. Well, who is that guy in 2023? A.T. Perry. A very accomplished receiver from Wake Forest, 150 catches last 2 years. 26 total touchdowns, I believe, in the ACC. Cedric Tillman, 6'3", doesn't have the statistical impact over a 2-year period of A.T. Perry, but has 2 fantastic games against Georgia and Alabama from 2021 on film that just show you what he's capable of. Other guys available, Marvin Mims, not the same type of body, not in that 6'3", 6'4" range as Perry and Tillman, but accomplished receiver who could come in game ready to contribute or help you out. Rashee Rice, among others. I like scenario number 3. You guys, if you're a Texans fan and you've listened this long, you can certainly let me know. There appear to be people who are suddenly have a different opinion of C.J. Stroud than they had 4 months ago, 3 months ago, or even a month ago. And that does not, in most cases, I'm going to call those people out, that does not appear to be from their own film study. It appears to be from, at least my observation, them co-signing other people's more popular talent evaluators now opinion that C.J. Stroud, because of S2 test or other cognitive psychological testing, is far behind Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Bryce Young. The film doesn't show that, in my opinion. Let me know what you think of either of these 3 possibilities. I would hope that the second one I showed you, if you're a Texans fan, you are not a fan of. If you are just as crazy as their front office. If that's what they do, take Will Levis at number 2 and leave C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson out there on the board, which would just strengthen a division rival 2 picks later. The Colts are either going to get Will Anderson or C.J. Stroud. In my opinion, you are in control of this draft more so than the Carolina Panthers. If you're a Texans fan, I think you should be looking at this scenario. Maybe not JSN at 12, maybe just the best player available based upon your unique positional needs and what you haven't addressed with free agency. I think pick 33 and then 65 and 73. This team is set up to do what the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions did last year, which is springboard, leapfrog, 12, 15, even more teams in terms of record next year. And there is no reason why this front office, this coaching staff, cannot find a way to win 8, 9, 10 football games with this roster next year, with the schedule the Texans have, and the unique opportunity they've got Thursday night starting with the first round and pick number 2. You guys let me know what you think of the video. If you think other NFL fans, Texans fans would appreciate this draft preview, please consider sharing a link on social media to help the video get more reach. I'm going to try to do another one of these for the Lions and then the Ravens by Tuesday night to do a draft preview, which is basically how I think the front office should approach it, given whatever's going to happen. But, of course, even with the Lions at pick number 6, there's just so many variables, picks 1 through 5, for me to try to predict. It's a whole lot easier with the Texans, or simpler, I should say, because they have pick number 2, and everyone presumes to know that the Carolina Panthers are going to take Bryce Young at number 1. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section.